Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 130 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I am your host, Mark Harris. We're going to be talking about some of the Big 12 Media Day stuff and how it relates to ASU. On this episode, a few other topics, but nothing too big for this show. Not going to be a deep dive into a past season like last episode was. And for all the people who watch, thank you for watching the episode where I justified that ASU should probably claim the 1975 championship based on the very talented players on the field, the fact that they went undefeated, the fact that they beat ranked teams, including a ranked Nebraska team, to do that, and the fact that the 1975 national championship was given to them by Sporting News at the time. So those are all reasons to do it. I don't think they should make a huge deal out of it, a la UCF 2017. But I think there's a way to claim it that can be done well. Everyone check out a comment on that last video from Rob Peterson. He added a lot of really good context about that 1975 team. So it was something I wanted to touch on, and I think there's a worthy case for ASU to claim that championship. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Please rate and review. Please follow the College Huddle podcast network and its network of shows. And let's jump into this episode. So ASU was voted. Oh, wait, they weren't picked anything because the Big 12 got rid of its preseason poll. I'm going to start off with this. And so there was a lot of debate about Brett Yormark's quote saying that the preseason poll, I retweeted the wrong thing, but Yormark pretty much said that the preseason poll last year and ASU being picked 16th, going on to win the conference, he says that negatively impacted ASU, and that's why they're getting rid of the preseason poll. I think there's some truth to that. I think it impacted ASU in the sense that if Utah or Oklahoma State or one of the other, or Kansas State, one of the teams at the top of the poll last year had the same exact season as ASU in that they went 10-2 and beat the crud out of Iowa State, and they lost 2 games equivalent to losing at Texas Tech and losing at Cincinnati without your starting quarterback. Key detail. If you just switched out Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, one of those top-ranked teams in the 2024 preseason poll, give them Arizona State's exact results from last year, I do think it hurt ASU in the sense that ASU had to be a 4 seed in the playoff and pretty much needed an upset in the ACC championship game with Clemson beating SMU to secure a bye in that playoff. And I bring that up because Boise State, the 3 seed, was ahead of ASU in that. And so I think there's an alternative reality where, like I said, one of those top-ranked teams entering the year, they hold serve, they have a season like ASU had last year, and then they don't have to make up as much ground in the rankings, and there's a better chance they enter the field as the 3 seed ahead of Boise State and not behind them just because they've been in the poll the whole year. Voters are familiar with them, and they get the benefit of the doubt. That's the only reason that really the poll hurt ASU last year. Some could say it helped because it gave them motivation. There's that, but that's not a tangible thing. So I don't think it. I think there's like a 10% sliver of truth in that from Yormark, but I don't think that it actually hurt them. I think it hurt the Big 12 as a league more than it hurt ASU because it creates this perception that, the worst team, they just came in and they just wrecked shop and by in that process, they made everyone else look bad. Like, I'm sorry, perceptually for the Big 12, it wasn't a great look for a team that people thought was going to be bad to come in and completely, I don't want to say run roughshod over the conference, but like establish themselves as the clear top team in the Big 12 and win the conference. It makes everyone else look a little bad. Now, one of the reasons I think ASU should have never been 16th in the poll last year. And this isn't just because I'm an ASU. Well, it's partly because I'm an ASU fan, but having watched the previous year's team in 23, they left some games on the table. And they had some bad injury luck. And there were games that they easily could have won that they didn't. And then at the end of the year, when they played the toughest part of their schedule and had some injuries, they got 3 blowout losses in November of 2023. And people, like, oh, of course they went 3-9. Well, it's like, okay, well, they could have easily beaten UW. They could have, I'm forgetting some of the early season losses of 2023, probably for the best. But there were a few other the Colorado loss. That was a game they could have won. There's one more. And then there's the Oklahoma State loss. Oh, was it It wasn't Stanford. I feel like it was Cal for some reason, but I don't think they played Cal in 2023. I don't want to go look up the 2023 schedule. It was Oklahoma State. It was some other team. I don't remember because they beat Wazoo. They beat UCLA. Those were their 2 Pac-12 wins. They beat NAU. Lost badly to Fresno State. Kind of came back against USC and hung tough with them. Oh, this is biting at me. But regardless, the 2023 team was not as bad as its overall 3-9 record, and I think some people just didn't do a deep enough dive in that team. And they shouldn't have been the 16th team. They probably should have been like the 13th team. And people also had this like, oh, teams coming into the Big 12, like they don't do well. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're applying that logic to teams coming up from the group of 5, right? Like Houston, UCF, Cincinnati. There's a natural talent disparity. So yes, they're not going to do as well. That didn't apply to the Pac-12 teams, right? Because Colorado also did well in its first year in the league. So anyway, I think all of those factors came together and made the Big 12 look worse than it hurt Arizona State, in my opinion. So I don't really agree with that from Yormark. Another quote that Yormark had that I'm just going to keep pounding this drum, and I know a lot of ASU fans don't agree with me on this, before we kind of get into some of the ASU stuff. Let me share this screen here. Share the screen. Okay, come on. Here we go. So Yormark is quoted here. Whoa, hold on. Why is it not? Oh, there we go. Okay. Whew. Yeah. Okay. There it is. Yormark is quoted here. 5+11 is fair. It may not be the best solution today for the Big 12, but long-term, it's the right format for us. I'll double down on it. I'm sure Jim Phillips and other conference commissioners will as well. So Yormark's publicly sticking with the 5+11 model for the upcoming playoff changes. And that just gives a conference championship, the 4, Power 4 conference champions a bid, one for the Group of 5 conference champion, and the rest are at-larges. I disagree with this because I just think it's way too risky. And I think a lot of times it means the Big 12 will not get a second team in. There will be years where they do not get a second team in. Last year, they would not have gotten a second team in, even though BYU, it's not about whether they should get a second team in, because I actually think that BYU should have had a lot more consideration for being in the mix with those 9-3 SEC teams that didn't make it, right? The Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss debate. BYU should have been in that mix more. And of course, those would have been teams that made a 16-team playoff. but they weren't, right? And BYU had the win over SMU as well. Like they had a really legit case. This isn't. It's just the perception and the metrics, right? The metrics are always going to favor teams that have higher recruiting rankings, and understandably so. I'm not really pushing against that, but all of these things factor against your average Big 12 team. And so that's why I think you just need to get the 2 auto bids. You just need to do it. Because, and people say, oh, well, that means the Big 12 is formalizing itself as a lesser tier conference. And it's not a horrible argument. My point would be is we don't know what's going to happen in the next, we don't know how it's all going to go down in 2030 with a Super League or different conferences or however it's going to shake out, right? We don't know how that's going to go. We can think how it's going to go, but we don't know. And so I think it is better for the schools in the Big 12. Now, let me listen to that again. The schools in the Big 12, the Big 12 members, to get the 2 auto bids, because it gives you literally a higher chance. It gives you 2 teams in no matter what. And it gives you the opportunity for an undeserving team to make it in, right? What happens if the Big 12, let's say it's 2 9-3 teams that go to the conference championship game this year, and there's not a 10-2 team. It's whatever, like ASU versus Kansas State at 2 9-3 teams, right? It's very, very possible that could happen. In the 5+11 model, you're getting the conference champion, and that's it. In the 2-2-4-4-3-1 or whatever, the 2 auto bids model, you're getting 2 teams in, and one of those teams may not deserve it even at all, right? They might get in just because they have the 2 auto bids, and it takes things out of the committee's hands, and it's locked in that you get 2 teams. And the opportunity to have an undeserving team get in, maybe they just play well one weekend and they beat, or they get a good matchup or whatever it is, right? Like, or they're a team that underachieved in the regular season a little bit and has some talent, right? Like, let's say Colorado last year, they're a tough example, I guess, now that I think about it. But like, let's say they make it to the Big 12 championship game. Let's say they're just like a little bit more solid of a team. They make the Big 12 championship game. They lose. But then they make the playoff, and now it's like, oh, you got to deal with Travis Hunter and Shedeur and a pretty good other, group of wide receivers. And then, maybe this hypothetical Colorado team has a better defense than last year, better offensive, whatever it may be. And they're just more of a solid, sturdier team, and you got to deal with some high-level talent. Like, that's the opportunity that the Big 12 has with the 2 auto bids. And I get so my point is rejecting the 2 auto bids model, and this applies to the ACC as well. It's better for like the conference, right, to not formalize itself as lesser tier, to not formalize itself as inferior. But that only helps the conference. It doesn't help the actual teams in the conference, right? It helps the brand of the Big 12. It doesn't help Kansas State and Texas Tech and Baylor and Arizona and Utah, because in the fight of, trying to be more respected, you're taking a gigantic risk that you only get 1 team in. And you know what's going to make you look even worse is getting 1 team in a lot of years. That's a real risk. And it's something that just can't be hand waved away. And, maybe they're banking on Texas Tech really turning into a recruiting stalwart. And you know what? There's some evidence to believe that, right? They were recruiting very well. Baylor's been on the run recruiting well. But I guess with the portal, it can all be so fickle, right? That's why this year for ASU, the 2025 season is huge. It's an incredibly important season because we don't know what's like 2026 season. Who knows, right? yeah, you'll probably have some decent running backs, right? Like Jason Brown will likely still be here, but we don't know. Like we just don't know what's going to be like in 2026. Because if things go well, then a lot of guys are going to go off to professional careers, right? And so but my bigger point with that is like all of this is a 1 year type of deal. So Brett Yormark can point to Texas Tech's recruiting and Baylor recruiting fairly well, and ASU, uh, is seeming to establish itself as a higher level program, and BYU having money, and Utah's track record of success, and all this. But it can just be so fickle with the transfer portal. So that's why you should take the guarantee and lock in that you are getting 2 teams in no matter what. And instead of last year's BYU team not even getting a look, it wouldn't matter that they didn't get a look because they would just be in. Or Iowa State would maybe be the other team because they both went 10-2 and whatever it is. But that's kind of my thought process on it, right? I just think it's a mistake. And there's a guy, Wild Ute, on Twitter who has echoed these thoughts. And so I know not all ASU fans agree, but I guess my point with this is I'm not loyal to the Big 12. I'm loyal to ASU. And ASU having a whatever, in, let's say 2027 down the road, let's 2028, 2027 down the road, not even this core group of players. Let's say they go 9-3 that year. Well, in a 5+11 model, they're not getting in unless there is extreme mass chaos. But even then, the extreme mass chaos, someone's still got to win games in the Big Ten and SEC. So the 9-3 team in the Big Ten and SEC is getting the benefit of the doubt over the 9-3 team in the ACC and Big 12. So and Yormark said he was confident the Big 12 will get 2 teams in. I mean, it's fine for Yormark to say all this stuff, but he doesn't have control over how things go down in the league. If you gave Brett Yormark truth serum about the 2024 season, he wouldn't have wanted ASU to win the Big 12. Or if he did, he would have wanted us to go 11-1 or whatever. But I don't know. I just think it's a mistake for the Big 12 to do this. I think they should take the 2 auto bids. I really do, and swallow their pride. And it will set up your teams, your member schools, to have a better profile when 2023, or not 2023, when 2030, 2031 comes around and there's the next reshuffling. And all of a sudden, an Iowa State team has 2 playoff appearances when maybe they would have had 1 otherwise. ASU has, let's say they have 3 playoff appearances when they would have had 2 otherwise, right? You are giving your second best team, the team that in most years loses in the conference championship game, if those even still exist, right? You're giving that second team in the Big 12 a far better chance. It's a 100% better chance to get in, right? Like, you're basically hoping that the Big 12, it's 11-1 TCU versus 11-1 Utah years, right? And then, yeah, if you produce 2 11-1 teams, then they're going to get in. But that doesn't happen all the time, right? Like I don't know. I just, if you have the second auto bid, then you are bettering the second place team in your league as it relates to the future of college football. And so maybe the Big 12 conference as a whole falls apart when teams, whatever, go to the Big 2 conferences, or maybe it'll just be a Super League or whatever it is. But you're just looking after the conference. You're not looking after the schools in the conference. So that's just my opinion, but I think there's merit to it. And I think that relying on the committee to treat a 10-2 Baylor team the same as they treat a 9-3 LSU team is faulty. It's faulty logic, and I think that you just got to take the bird in the hand, man. Take the bird in the hand and swallow your pride a little bit. So that's just my thought on that. And some other stuff. As I've hardly talked about ASU. I did want to touch on one quote from Kenny Dillingham. And man, I think people. I guess it's unfair for me to get like upset at people for taking a quote, a coach's quote, literally, because it is what he said. But I do think that people are just kind of foisting upon their own, I don't know, judgments based on this quote. So one of the quotes from Dillingham, who he had some quotes about like recruiting and not wanting to over-index or basically over-promise recruits a lot when who knows how things play out when you get here with the transfer portal. He doesn't want to guarantee them a bunch of money up front and then all of a sudden they're a third string linebacker and that becomes an issue, right? And all that stuff. I don't totally disagree. I don't totally agree with his recruiting approach. I could be convinced either way in terms of the commits, like not being able to visit any other places after you commit, because I do think it limits your recruiting ranking ceiling. And I don't love that. I just don't. I do think there is some value in just having a good recruiting ranking. But I could also be convinced that you want to get the guys who really want to be here. You want to get people who are so like focused on ASU and aren't really looking into anything else. And those players are less likely to transfer once you get to ASU because they really want to be here and they're not just they're coming in, 10 toes down. So it'll be interesting. Like that's still something that has to be seen, I guess, because we're entering year 3 of the era. A lot of last year's team was built on just transfers, right? If you go through, let's see, Tyson was a transfers or a few holdovers from the previous era, but Levitt, Scadaboo were both transfers. Tyson was a transfer. Stovall, transfer. Exgillery, transfer. Offensive line, Atkins, transfer. Coleman, transfer. Lee Fautanu was also a transfer. And then Scott and Iheanacho were both junior college additions, so they're not the same. Mateer, transfer. So like all these guys, defensive linemen, Smith and Dorba, transfer. O'Neal, JUCO guy. Fight was a recruit. Kangaika, transfer. Swanson, transfer. Keyshawn Elliott, transfer, right? Like Romney, transfer. McCullough was a holdover. Robinson, transfer. Rouser, transfer. Alford, transfer. Abney was a recruit. So you have two. I'm forgetting who our other line. Martell Hughes was a recruit. Forgetting who our other starting line. Crook. Jordan Crook was a transfer. So all these guys and these guys who are helping our team, Simmons, transfer. They were all transfers. So it's a little bit of a different thing in terms of like the recruits who are helping. And that'll be more shown, not even this year so much as the 2026 season, right? When theoretically you have, Jason Brown Jr. and Jaden Fortier and Cam Dyer and maybe Martell Hughes is still here. Maybe Keith Abney will be here, maybe not. Troy Lewis Nakuba, Rodney Bimage, a bunch of players I'm forgetting about. If there's a big retention among those guys, then that's where the kind of philosophy really starts to bear fruit. So it's still totally yet to be seen. But the fact that ASU basically returned every important player from last year's team that was eligible to return, I mean, there is some truth into his philosophy of keep bringing in guys who really want to be here and emphasizing retention. So anyway, I say all this to say, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this quote already. It's from a quote from Pete Thamel. So he says, frames it as this is an interesting quote from Dillingham. Quote, "To me, recruiting is dead. Retention is alive." He adds, "It's not about recruiting. I don't care if we're ranked dead last in recruiting my entire career here. Who knows? It would be like if the draft was for 1 year, then half of your draft picks leave. So it's all about retention now. That's my entire thing." So I think when people see, to me, recruiting is dead, they're like, "Oh, well, you have to have good players who you come in to recruit in order to retain those good players," as if that's something that Dillingham just like didn't even think about. Like, for ASU's having a mid-tier, maybe better than ASU's having a good, not great recruiting class for its capabilities, right? I think I've said on this show that some Sun Devil media outlets have just I honestly thought made themselves look bad by overhyping. Oh, ASU has a top 10 recruiting class and it's mid-April. It's like, okay, like it's going to shake out as the year goes along. Like, I don't know why we have to fall for this. And anyway, but it's clear that Dillingham values recruiting. His point is that you have to emphasize much more on retention than recruiting. That seems very clear, right? And clearly that emphasis has worked out for them, and it's easier to retain players if you're not at a top 10 money school, which clearly ASU has decent NIL, but it is not Texas Tech or Ohio State or Oregon NIL, where you can just kind of drop the biggest bag on someone and there's no reason for them to leave because of that. Like Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt and Abney and CJ Fight, like all these guys, I'm sure have turned down some decent amount of money, but they wouldn't just stay here, for an enormous or an completely unfair discount. I'll put it that way. So, but they are still leaving some money on the table, most likely. And that's the point of getting these players who you really want to be here, right? Or who really want to be at ASU. And I guess Dillingham probably could have emphasized this better because recruiting itself is not dead. You have to recruit a certain level of talent to be competitive. There's no doubt around that. But it's the idea of not over-indexing, over-focusing on recruiting, and over-promising or over-allocating, right, these kids money when they can just leave and then it's over. So this idea that like Dillingham like doesn't care about recruiting at all, and it's only about retention, and it's like, well, you have to have good players in order to retain them. It's like, okay, like I think Dillingham understands that. I just and there's debate about how his recruiting approach. I'm not here to defend him wholeheartedly on his recruiting approach because there are some holes to pick in there. But this idea that he just doesn't care about recruiting at all, that's just untrue. And it's obviously untrue. I mean, especially when you factor in the whole golden ticket thing to the high profile Arizona 2027 recruits. Who knows how well that will work, right? It may not be as effective as we like, and maybe it's a bad strategy, but you can't say that he doesn't care at all about recruiting if they're going to that effort, right? And so I just think people are kind of just misinterpreting that quote a little bit. That's all I can say. Not that, because if you want to argue, oh, Dillingham doesn't care enough about recruiting, that's fine. Like I can listen to that argument, but the argument that he doesn't care about it at all, okay, if you want to say he doesn't care at all because he said recruiting is dead, I understand where you're coming from with that, but I just don't think that that's exactly what he meant. I think his point is more that retention is more important than recruiting. And I agree with that. I think I think a lot of schools agree with that, right? Like, this is why, like, I think there is an element of Dabo Sweeney in Dillingham. And, like, Dabo is not for everyone, right? He's not for me. And, like, honestly, like, I don't know if I was a high school recruit and I had zero connection to ASU, I don't know if I would vibe with Dillingham that much, but he has to find the guys. I'm not a 17-year-old talented high school football player, so it doesn't really matter what I think on that. Like, Dillingham needs to find the guys that vibe with him and people that really want to be at ASU. And so that's why it's important for him to get guys who want to be here and want to stay here. And there's the importance of the retention aspect. So enough on that. A few other things I wanted to mention. So there's some NIL changes going on with the House settlement, and are these collective deals actually a thing? I struggle to dive in too deep with this because it changes all the time. There could just be another upcoming court case that changes this kind of what this new commission is trying to do with approving NIL deals and all this. I just think that I think that ASU at least seems to be paying attention to this, and I don't think they're going to be caught with their pants down. You see the guy Peter Boyle on Twitter, the what's it called? The Sun Angel Collective director. He seems to be following this closely, and so we'll just see how this plays out. But I trust that ASU, right now anyway, right, pre-2025 season, I trust that ASU will be able to navigate this to the best of its ability going forward. But I'm not going to touch too much on the NIL stuff. I know Dillingham had some things to say about it. I mean, Dion, Colorado, said he wanted a salary cap. I don't think that will ever happen. I understand why teams want a salary cap, because you have teams like Texas Tech just dropping bags on guys, right? And if you're Texas Tech, you don't want a salary cap, and so I think from a legal perspective, like, good luck. I don't think that's going to pass the smell test in court. So there's that. A few other things. What else did I write down here? No poll. Obviously, I mentioned that there's no poll. There's been some informal polls. There was a Big 12 coaches poll that had ASU kind of where did they have it? I retweeted this. It had ASU. It had ASU at least third in the coaches poll. Oh wait, no, this is a poll conducted by On3 Sports. Okay, so On3 had Iowa State versus Kansas State in the Big 12 championship, so that means ASU came in at least third. The coaches for the Big 12, I think, had ASU in second. If you watch the Cover 3 podcast, a lot of those guys had ASU kind of in the second to third range. And this is exactly kind of what I wanted for ASU football entering the 2025 season, because they proved too much, right? They've returned too much talent, including a high-level quarterback and wide receiver, that they're not going to be picked like seventh in the Big 12 poll entering the year. So when you have all of this bankable talent and you have the background that they won the Big 12 last year, they're not going to, like I said, they're not going to be seventh. But I was also worried that, like, are we just going to be picked number one on everything, right? And I don't want that. I don't want that as a fan. And that's not happening. A lot of how are they going to do without Scattaboo? Oh, how are they going to do with these one-score games? That's a fair thing to bring up. That second one is a fair thing to bring up. There's some that's like, ASU football history, it would tell you that they pop up and then they fall back down. That's kind of half true, right? Let's say this is a repeat of the 2013 and 14 seasons with Graham, right? 2013, they go 10-2. 2014, you could say they fell back down, but they fell back down to 9-3. And if ASU football goes 9-3 this year, depends how it all shakes out. But I mean, if they go 9-3, there's a decent chance they go back to the Big 12 championship game. And I think if ASU makes it back to the Big 12 championship game in any kind of path to get there, then fans will be like, okay, they held serve. If they go 9-3 and don't make it back, it'll be kind of a disappointment, but they'll still be ranked. They'll still have a chance to win a 10th game in a bowl game. So I don't know. But anyway, there's kind of just this theme that like, oh, okay, so how are you going to do it again, though? And I'm glad there's enough of that doubt out there because, I think the whole offseason has been like, okay, last year was, I believe Levitt at the Big 12 Media Day said like, oh, like, Dillingham brought out a cake of, oh, we were 2024 Big 12 champions and smashed the cake. So like internally, they are clearly focusing on like, hey, like, yeah, we return everyone. Yeah, we bring back Levitt and Tyson and 9 starters on defense and all this. And but last year was last year and we have to prove it again. And so I'm glad that like internally there's that, but there's also some external motivation too. And the external motivation is, despite blowing the doors off Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game last year, despite finishing the season red hot, going to Manhattan and beating Kansas State by double digits, they are not the obvious favorite. They are not. And there's a lot, like if you're one of these guys in the running back room and you have to hear, oh, how are they going to do it without Scadaboo? How are they going to do it without Scadaboo? Like that's a motivation right there. If you're Levitt, oh, is he going to do, like there's a lot of opposing fans who, oh, it was just Scadaboo and that's it, How are they going to do it without Scadaboo? There you go. So like there's enough, despite them getting worthy praise, it is also counterbalanced with there's enough doubt out there as well. And some of it's just the overall doubt in ASU as a program, right? Like, because for as surprising, and I've said this before on the show, for as surprising as last year was in the context of that individual period of time, like people were not expecting ASU to go 10-2 and win the Big 12, right? ASU going 10-2 in a given season over its history, that is not surprising, right? And they're like, again, in the 21st century, they've had, that was their 4th 10-win season, I believe, 2 with Graham, 1 with Erickson. Yeah. So it was their 4th 10-win season. So not that that's where you want to be. It would preferably be they should have found a way to win 10 wins in 2021. And then the 1 year with Cutter where they went 9-3 and lost, I think that was 2004. That probably should have been your 6th 10-win season in the 21st century, but that's a different show, different discussion. It's not completely out of the blue. Like it's not like it was ASU's first 10-win season in 30 years. Now it was their first conference championship in 30 years, right? Like you can't just bank on ASU winning a conference championship once every 5 years or whatever, but winning 10 games is not that unheard of. So, the point with people expecting regression is like, yeah, we've seen ASU pop up before. Are they going to maintain? And that's a real question. I wonder what maintain looks like to people. Because if they go 9-3, some might say that is maintaining, right? You only drop off by 1 game. But that is a thing for ASU. And there is some of the close game regression stuff. Like that's not totally out of bounds. I did a show 2 or 3 shows ago kind of examining the close games that ASU actually played in. And each of those close games had its own different story. Let me put it that way. So, and some of them the final score was misleading to begin with, like the Utah game and the Texas Tech game. Like, even though those were 8-point games, they didn't always feel like that. I mean, the Utah game, you just miss an extra point and all of a sudden a 2-score game becomes a 1-score game. But anywho, so there's that. To wrap up my thoughts on that, like, it's just there's still some healthy skepticism out there with ASU, and I think ultimately that is good for this Sun Devils team, that they aren't coming in with just, oh, they're obviously going to win the Big 12 again. Like if this were again, if ASU or if Utah had the exact same season that ASU had last year, they had Sam Levitt on their team. Imagine how much more Sam Levitt would hate BYU if he had played for Utah. Anyway, if that were the case for an established Big 12 program, then I think people would just be like, oh yeah, they're definitely going to win it again, right? Because they won it last year. So that's something to keep an eye on as we enter the season. I watched a lot of interviews with the ASU players. I thought it was interesting how much kind of national or not national pub that Jordan Tyson got, but there was the clip of him talking about wanting the Tyson chicken endorsement from Snapback from Icy Vert on Twitter. If you're on Twitter and you're follow sports, you've probably seen that account. Apparently, he's associated with this company called Snapback Sports, and they were asking him questions, and so it was cool to see Jordan Tyson get some of that. A lot more national recognition there. And I mean, it makes sense, right? With this whole offseason, right? He's in a lot of kind of draft previews. He's entering this year as wide receiver number 1 in the 2026 NFL draft class. Now, all the attention is on Jeremiah Smith, and deservedly so. I love Tyson. I think he's excellent. I don't think there's any reason for me to be like, he's actually better than Jeremiah Smith. I don't believe that. So that's a different discussion. But Jeremiah Smith can't come out of the college football this year. So anyway, Tyson is on the map. He's on the radar. And it's cool to see him kind of get that attention at Big 12 Media Day. Fun-loving guy. It was cool to see more of his personality. We didn't really know his personality too much last year because he was really blew up as the season went on. And just a very likable guy, very fun-loving guy. I thought they do the thing where they have the screens in the background and the player screams into the camera, and he does like this high pitch, like I'm not gonna do it as loud as he did, but like something that like a child would do when they're like making the most like high pitched scream. And I thought that was really funny because all these other guys are like, trying to look big and strong, and he's like, so that was good. Levitt, I thought that he just kind of seemed comfortable in his own skin, just kind of just represented himself well. You could tell that there was a confidence, but it did not come off as too cocky. He seemed joyful and kind of rolling with the punches and stuff. So he just kind of embodied that QB1 vibe. And that, I mean, you love to see that, right? Like this, a lot of the success for ASU, especially like them reaching their high level success, falls on Levitt in large part. Obviously, the defense is good. And speaking of defense, I heard one interview with Alford. I think Alford just kind of interesting guy, but more of a straight down the arrow guy. Nothing crazy from him. Big 12 Media Days. Didn't hear anything from CJ Fight. We know Ben Coleman. I didn't hear anything from Ben Coleman, but we know that he's an entertaining guy. He held, kind of his own little show at Pedal House earlier this year. And so like he's a very affable, charismatic guy. And I think he did something with Reese Davis for the new college football game as well. So I think I saw that on Twitter. But Clayton Smith, I heard one interview with him on one of the Salt Lake radio stations. Interesting guy. You can tell that he's kind of been through I think he's a redshirt senior, I believe. So he's seen the whole evolution of college football. He's been in a blue blood program. I mean, he came out as a 5-star. And you could kind of tell that he's kind of reflected on all that. And, the emphasis for him kind of honing his pass rushing skills even more. So he's a really interesting player on this upcoming team, and an interesting guy to listen to as well. But with him, like I think that he really has the opportunity to have an excellent season because you kind of saw some of it last year anyway. So really looking forward to what we see from Clayton Smith after Big 12 Media Days. Okay, did I touch everything? Yeah, I think I touched on everything. I mean, a lot of and interestingly, as it relates to, like ASU not being picked number one in the kind of not official Big 12 polls, the unofficial polls done by other outlets. ASU got like some attention at Big 12 media days, but I think a lot was on Texas Tech because of just how their recruiting strategy. And I'll say this, like, I don't have any issue with what Texas Tech is doing. Like, if ASU had a billionaire booster like that, if you're out there, Nap Lawrence, I don't know how much money Jimmy Kimmel has. If you're John Rahm or Phil Mickelson getting that live golf money, if you're one of those uber rich people out there who loves Sun Devil athletics, you can follow this Cody Campbell model, right? Like, maybe ASU doesn't want to drop bags on high school kids, but that doesn't mean money can't be used. Anyway, Texas Tech getting a ton of attention. There was a lot of pressure. I heard a quote about their coach Joey McGuire, or about this upcoming season, and that someone behind the scenes said they need to go 10-2, and like that's a lot to expect for a team. Not to like, oh, they need to be ranked or they need to do this and that. Like, no, they need to go 10-2 or better, and they have the opportunity to do so. It wouldn't be the craziest thing. I mean, they did go 8-4 last year, but I just like, where would you rank Behren Morton among Big 12 quarterbacks? That's kind of the thing that I keep coming back to, because their defensive line will be a lot better than it was last year with Romello Height and David Bailey transferring in. You've got a guy, Lee Hunter, as well. Like, I think their defensive line will be good. But with Morton, like, I would rank Levitt ahead of him. I would rank Avery Johnson ahead of him. I would rank both Sawyer Robertson and Rocco Becht ahead of him. So there's 4 guys right there. And there's probably, Dampier, we don't know yet. Fifita, no. Colorado's a question mark, but high ceiling. Oklahoma State, no. Houston, no. UCF, no. I mean, I think I'd have Brennan Sorsby at Cincinnati ahead of him. So Josh Hoover, I'd probably have it. Maybe he's more on that Hoover-Sorsby level, but I think Morton's probably closer to being the 7th best quarterback in the Big 12 than being the 1st or 2nd, right? So I think the only 2 guys who can really be confident of being the best quarterback in the Big 12 is Sawyer Robertson at Baylor and Sam Levitt. I think that's it. I don't think anyone else has a real argument entering the year. So anyway, kind of thoughts on Texas Tech. Colorado got some attention because Dion made the points about wanting a salary cap, and he called something bull junk. So I do think that Colorado's in a good spot. I feel like that game that ASU has at the end of the year at Colorado, that does scare me, honestly, because I think they'll have their identity formed by then, and it's going to be a colder game. So I don't know. I think Colorado, they're just going to be like a decent team this year. Other than that, I think ASU was probably like the 3rd or 4th most talked about team at Big 12 media days. It seemed like Kansas State's, everyone's just like, oh yeah, Kansas State will win the league this year. Okay. I mean, they have some good defensive personnel coming back. I just can't get that ASU Kansas State game out of my head when we watched. And I think that Levitt is just a better quarterback than Avery Johnson. And you can say that, oh, Avery Johnson, he'll have room to grow, after a decent first full year of starting. And he's probably a better runner than Levitt, that's for sure. But that Levitt was also a redshirt freshman last year. So I just find that interesting. In terms of anyone else in that. Yeah, I think that's enough on the Big 12 Media Day stuff. I think that things went well for ASU. They were respected but not overly hyped, and that's a good spot for them to be in entering the year. Baseball added a few more players. I saw that they were up to 12th in the 64 sports college baseball. Oh, I should have mentioned this. ASU won the Commissioner's Cup, which from the Big 12 recognized excellence on the field and in the classroom, helped that they won 4 So they won men's and women's diving, football, and volleyball. So congratulations to Graham Rossini and the athletic department for winning the Big 12 Commissioners Cup. ASU has new uniforms. I think if you're watching this, you know by now. They changed some things. They add the Arizona State moniker on the front side, but other than that, nothing too big there. Sam Levitt named preseason Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. Tyson, Coleman, Fight, Alford, all named to the Big 12 All-Conference team. Said they were 5 players. 11. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. 64 analytics. One of the players ASU got was a left-handed pitcher, Brady Luck, Louck, from Florida State. 3.86 ERA in 11.2 innings last year with the Seminoles. There's a story about Sam Levitt from Pat Forty, just kind of talking about all the, quarterbacks' names listed on his wall or his mirror. And it's an interesting story if you haven't really followed ASU that much. It's a lot of the same stuff that we kind of know about Levitt, just how much of a competitive guy he is and using every slight at his own for his own motivation. But it is a good story from Pat Forty that came out on July 1st. Going back to baseball, one of the reasons why ASU was 12th in the 64 analytics college transfer portal team rankings, basically the only non-SEC school in that mix, which I find interesting. They got a guy from, I think it's Jacksonville University. I can't tell by Jacksonville University. Nick Anello, he was the Stopper of the Year nominee, 19.1 innings with 9 saves and 20 strikeouts, 3.42 ARA. So a good reliever. And okay, so that's the only stuff with baseball. Just a good things going on with the baseball program, and just in terms of retention and the offseason. That's another thing with this baseball program it's kind of flown under the radar is last year ASU lost. They lost their pitcher Thomas Burns and then another high-profile player who both left. This year they haven't lost any major players yet, so that's a big. It's a big step for them. I mean, they're losing. They're going to lose some guys to the MLB draft, but that's fine. Like you want to lose guys to the MLB draft, obviously, but you're not losing them to other schools. So there's that. And then some news that came in on Friday morning. 7'1". This is from Deshaun London from 24/7 Sports. 7'1" Dame Salane has committed to Arizona State. He's an Italian/Senegalese, I think more Senegalese, but has some Italian background as well. 7'1" center. You get him and the guy, I think Cartman has this on his page. The guy Diop, who played in Spain. And all of a sudden, this ASU basketball team at least has some real size with the two kind of 7-foot players in its front line. ASU gets another 4-star tight end. Yep, 2 Senegalese centered. ASU Hoops now has 14 newcomers on its team, which is hilarious. You got some of Cartman sharing some of his Salane's highlights. Got some skill. So, all right, that'll be done with that. And then, so ASU also added tight end Landon Myrie from Cincinnati. 4-star in some services, high 3-star in others. Good recruit to get, and hopefully ASU can add a few more guys in its class to up its ranking a little bit. But it seems like the bulk of the 2026 recruiting class is in tow. So that'll be interesting to follow as the season goes along. All right, so, kind of a scattershot episode from me this time, but wanted to touch on some things that came out of the Big 12 Media Day as we enter the weekend. And before we know it, they got Camp T announced for August 6th through 9th. It's starting to roll into motion. We got about a month and a half until the season starts. And personally, I'm going to just be enjoying kind of the overall vibe of winning last year. And then it really gets going on August 31st when the NAU Lumberjacks come to town. So please like and subscribe, rate and review. Thank you for watching and listening. Honestly, it's good to know that, this doesn't get a enormous amount of views, but it's good to know that people out there do care and have their thoughts on what's going on with ASU athletics. So yeah, please like and subscribe, rate and review. And as always, go Sun Devils right there. There's the Sporky.